down now.
Headline news.
Closer to that. Oh, yeah. I need to hang around all that.
We want is not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a difficult
Time, man.
The person coming out? No, this is All right, Mr. Bradford is here. We are ready to go. Oh! Supervisor Dunham, my apologies. I did not realize Supervisor Perkins is making remarks as well, but we're glad you're here. Thank you. He doesn't want to say it with the microphone on. He's talking about.
He was questioning my speed of eating my chicken back there.
He was.
I
He
was
was.
be quick enough.
You can tell by the frivolity and the casual nature with which we are beginning to participate that it has been a long day and a half. And so we are certainly appreciative, however, that everybody has hung with us and that you are continuing to participate in the process. My name is Jimmy Clark, and I am the chair of the UL System Board of Supervisors. I want to welcome you to the Grambling State University Presidential Search this afternoon. We have one more to go, and then we will begin another process of deliberation. But before we begin today, let me remind you that anyone who wishes to make a public comment about an agenda item must complete a testimony/information card and hand it to a UL System staff member seated in the front. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes, as we've been doing throughout this process. Finally, as a courtesy to everyone, please remember cell phones need to be put onto silent. At this time, I'd like to ask Dr. Calais to call roll, please.
President Rick Gallo,
Here.
Mr. David Aubrey,
Here.
Mr. James Bradford,
Here.
Mr. Alvin Bradley,
Here.
Mr. Barry Busada,
Here.
Dr. Jimmy Clark,
Here?
Mr. Steve Davison,
Here.
Ms. Lola Donahoe,
Present.
Mr. Wilbert Coach Ellis,
Here.
Ms. Alexa Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Al Perkins,
Here.
Ms. Elizabeth Pierre,
Here.
Dr. Frederick Pinckney,
Here.
Dr. Gary Poe,
Here.
Dr. Tammy Richardson,
Here.
Mr. Virgil Robinson,
Here.
Mr. Rodney Welch,
Here.
Ms. Bailey Willis.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Erica. At this point, I will turn over the meeting to our committee chair, President Gallo.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Yesterday, we began public interviews with the semifinalists for the position of President of Grambling State University. We have conducted 5 interviews so far, 3 yesterday and 2 today. Our final interview with Dr. Monica Williams will begin shortly. All candidates have had an opportunity to participate in campus and community tours and engaged with faculty, staff, students, alumni, and community members. As I mentioned earlier, these group meetings are vital to the process, and we value the feedback of the Grambling constituents. Yesterday, the committee interviewed Dr. Marquis Pierre, Dr. Martin Lamel, Dr. Gregory Ford. Today, the committee interviewed Mr. Edwin Smith and Dr. Roderick Smothers. Do any of the members of the committee have any questions before we proceed? Are there any comments from the public?
No, sir.
Now, before we begin our final interview with semifinalist Dr. Monica Williams, I would like to share with you the framework for her interview. Dr. Williams will provide an opening statement, and then the search committee will ask questions. After the search committee has exhausted its questions, Dr. Erica Calais may address questions to the candidate that have been submitted by the audience. Again, if anyone would like to submit a question to be considered, please do so by completing the appropriate card. We will entertain as many public questions as time will allow. Following the public interview, the committee will enter into executive session to further dialogue with Dr. Williams. Once Dr. Williams has been interviewed and her executive session has concluded, The search committee will return to open session and recess until the 5 p.m. meeting, at which time the search committee will deliberate and select finalists to be interviewed by the full University of Louisiana System Board on February 22nd in Baton Rouge. At this time, I would like to invite Dr. Monica Williams to the table. Dr. Monica G. Williams has been a transformative figure at the University of North Texas at Dallas since 2016, holding the positions of Foundation President / CEO and Vice President of Advancement. With a robust background in educational leadership, she was strategically hired to establish the mission, vision, values, and overarching goals for a successful advancement program that significantly impacted nearly 4,000 students. In her role, Dr. Williams played a crucial part in the President's cabinet, overseeing a diverse portfolio that includes alumni and development, advancement services, marketing and communication, sponsored programs, external relations, economic development, Caruth Police Institute, pre-collegiate initiatives, leadership programs, and the Pathway to Technology Collegiate Program. Managing nearly 30 staff and a substantial $4.6 million annual budget, she has been the architect of UNTD's recalibrated 5-year strategic plan and the driving force behind the UNTD Matters value proposition. Beyond the university, Dr. Williams has been appointed to the DeSoto Independent School District Strategic Planning Team and has devised a comprehensive 2.5-year plan for rolling out athletics, including affiliating athletic conferences, securing student votes, developing marketing and communication plans, and recruiting coaches and students. Dr. Williams has also been a key player in fostering internal and external relationships, working with entities such as the City of Dallas Mayor's Office, UNT Dallas Founders, Department of Education, Texas Education Agency, Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, United Way, Communities Foundation of Texas, Texas Instruments Foundation, and many more. With a PhD in educational leadership from Prairie View A&M University, an MA in communications from Texas Southern University, and a BA in journalism and English from Texas Southern University, Dr. Monica G. Williams brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to her role at UNT Dallas, contributing significantly to the university's growth, reputation, and impact. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for joining us today. Would you please take a few moments to introduce yourself and your significant other and provide the committee with an opening statement? Dr. Williams.
Thank you, Chancellor Gallo and members of the esteemed panel. I am delighted to be with you today, and it is the honor of a lifetime to sit before you and contemplate the prospect of becoming Grambling State University's next president. My significant other is, pardon me. Okay. My significant other, fiance, and life partner, Mr. Ronald Robinson, has accompanied me here today, and I'm delighted to introduce him. He is a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin, where he was the leading rusher and team captain, and went on to be the #1 draft prospect in the NFL, right before he had a career-ending knee injury, which still landed him an opportunity to sign with 2 NFL teams and then eventually go on to have a storied career in technology, from which he is now retired. I am grateful to him for his support and grateful that he would join me if I were selected to be the next president at Grambling. just a little bit of an opening statement, a little bit about me. At my very heart, I was a mom very early. At 18 years old, I chose to become a mom because life happened to me. And instead of going to college, which I was not a first-generation college student, both my parents attended college at historically black colleges and universities, and my father earned multiple degrees. But it was my decision to start my career in education at the time my daughter went to kindergarten. So she packed her backpack, I packed mine, and we went off to school together. And it's been a journey uphill, but that is my greatest accomplishment, is to be the mom of my now 39-year-old daughter and grandlady, love that G, to my 9-year-old granddaughter. I also have 5 bonus grandbabies, and we have a very rich life in Texas. But I feel that my calling is before me, and I am looking for the next opportunity, one that I feel will be the final one as it relates to employment in higher education. So I look forward very much to the opportunity of joining this esteemed university in the leadership capacity. I have immensely enjoyed being with members of the university community. I would be remiss if I didn't say my favorite experience was visiting with the students, whom I shared with them are the story of education to employment. They looked the part, they showed up in the room, and they asked all of the right questions, ones that really gave me pause and thought. What that tells me is that you're doing something magical here, just like I've known since I was a young girl coming onto this campus more than 35 years ago for a Greek show. The story was then and is now that Grambling State University is a premier institution. There are low-hanging fruit opportunities where I think I can make a difference. I've identified some of those just briefly in a handout I've shared with you, and I'd be happy to elaborate on those further. Thank you for this amazing opportunity. I appreciate being here.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. All right, we have questions from the committee.
Dr. Williams, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
What specific aspects of Grambling State University led you to consider applying for this position?
First and foremost, as a graduate of an historically black college and university, 2 of them to name specifically, Texas Southern University, my first love, and Prairie View A&M University, which both have rich cultures, but it was my experience at Prairie View A&M University that I believe prepared me best to come to lead an institution like Grambling, and particularly to lead Grambling. It is a land-grant university established in 1876. Your founding in 1901 during that same or similar era really did illustrate a vision to educate those who are under-championed and who have the opportunity to change the narrative in their families. And so it's in my DNA. I have loved and championed and served institutions that concentrate on minority-serving populations. And I think at this point in time, my greatest gift would be to increase the visibility of Grambling in its already well-represented brand. But I think there's an opportunity to showcase and reintroduce Grambling to the world.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So my question is, excuse me, how do you plan to establish accessibility and foster engagement with students, faculty, and staff?
At my institution, UNT Dallas, where I am now, I lead the system in Gallup engagement scores. My engagement scores are always above 95%. Specifically, they've been 96% and above. And it's because I have an open door. I know that I can't possibly greet every student and listen to every concern, but I certainly am willing to try. And I believe in building a team of listeners, not talkers. You have to listen. You have 2 ears, so listening is number one. That's the first thing I do. And I'm accessible to do that, and I avail myself to do that.
And if I may follow up.
Yes.
When you say engagement score, can you expand upon that? What does that entail?
So the Gallup engagement score is an indicator that tells you the levels of, in which your teams are engaged and high performing. And Gallup is the leading indicator of engagement. I hope that answers your question, but I'm happy to try to break it down.
I'd like to hear a little bit more about this. I'm fascinated, and I don't know, maybe, Alexa, you got it all, but this score is developed by who contributes to it?
By Gallup, and every employee in the whole system takes the Gallup indicator, and it's benchmarked worldwide. And so what it does is asks a series of about 20 questions. They're very basic in nature, but they tell a lot about the culture of an organization and what areas could be improved upon towards becoming a best place to work.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Alexa, I didn't mean to step on you.
Alexa, do you have a follow-up question?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
you.
I have a couple questions for
Yes.
you. It's obvious that you believe it's important to have a vision.
Yes.
Took away my first question, by the way. What I'm interested in is, how did you construct this vision? And when you set foot on this campus as president, will you revise it? And how?
Thank you for your question. The way in which I prepared the vision was I looked at the face of Grambling State University. That is your website. It's the first place I looked. I also interviewed a number of alumni from Grambling State University, former employees. So I had sort of a village that I spoke to, and I spent some time contemplating on what would make the most difference in a 5-year time frame. And what often happens is you come to the table in a world like this and prepare a lot of things that are really just not achievable or obtainable. But for me, I believe in quick wins and successes, and so I developed what I felt were the low-hanging fruit opportunities and ones where I could make the greatest impact in the shortest amount of time. I do believe that the galvanization of these items would certainly have to be adjusted along the way, but it's certainly a framework from which to start and build upon. These are just really my thoughts, as I said earlier, around what could be immediate wins, but certainly I believe in engagement of teams and fostering collaboration among the university community. So I would want a leadership team to be engaged and buy in, and also offer insight into what they believe should be the areas of concentration over a 5-year period. Oh, it would be university-wide. It would be faculty, staff, students. The first, I said earlier in a conversation with one of the stakeholder groups with whom I met, that at Prairie View, the number one thing for me was engaging the people who cared for the campus. So the way they feel about the institution is the most important, because it starts with exiting on the freeway to get here. And there's so much opportunity for beautification between the interstate and the entry point. And that work is work I did at Prairie View. So if you've been on their campus in the last 25 years, that's the work I did.
All right, I have another question for you. In higher education, shared governance holds many different meanings and many different applications, often interpreted differently by administrations. How do you define shared governance, and what strategies would you use to implement this at Grambling?
I'm a servant leader, and so shared governance is at the top of my philosophy. I believe that the definition of shared governance is all stakeholders at the table weighing in on the vision, on reimagining or working towards achieving the optimal vision, which was how the university was founded. The core based upon which it was founded. And I use that as an example because in 1901, things looked very differently than they look now. Technology, digitization, resources, educational opportunities and academic offerings. But at the end of the day, the educators, the world-class faculty that are on this campus that do the work every day to ensure that everybody is somebody, well, those are the people who have to be at the table and buy in, because they are the constituents who make it happen every day, while the rest of us administrate, if you will. So I think there has to be a cross-section of disciplines at the table helping to make the decision, and that is shared governance.
Committee members, let me remind you to please use the microphones so that they can hear in the back.
Good afternoon,
Good
Dr.
afternoon.
Williams. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I hate I missed the 9:30 session this morning because I see you spent some time working in the mayor's office for the city of Dallas. So hopefully before it's over, we still can have a conversation.
I would like to.
But I would like to say, on behalf of the citizens of Grambling, and there are some city council, any city council members here? Okay, city council lady Ponton is here, as well as we have a former city council lady, Miss Phyllis Smith, is in here as well. My question is kind of a two-part question. How do you define the responsibilities of the president in this position? And part two, can you share specific skills and experiences that highlight your potential for success in fulfilling these responsibilities?
Well, I will start by saying that the responsibility of of the president should be to advance the mission of the university, the mission, the vision, and my experience in so doing has been that I was the first hire, major hire, cabinet level hire at UNT Dallas 8 years ago for my president. And that is a new university. It's 13 years old, and I've been there 8 of those 13. And when I arrived, it had not experienced growth in the first 6 years. So my boss calls me vice president of everything. And he's the president of the university. And so he calls me that because I do everything. I have 9 areas that report up through me. And anything that I can do to alleviate him drowning in a matter, I take it on. There isn't a challenge that I'm afraid to face. And doing that job that I currently do right now has prepared me, I think, to do anything. When you're the number 2, you're sort of the number 1. So I've enjoyed working closely with him, collaboratively with him, and other members of the cabinet. But fundraising, I have to say, making it easier on the constraints of the university is my gift. That's what I do well, and that was the focus of my dissertation, is having historically Black college and university presidents be more entrepreneurial in their thinking, to raise money, to bring home the bacon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one correction. Former council lady, I think it's Phyllis Miller, is in here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Grambling has established noteworthy partnerships and innovative program connections with various industries, presenting opportunities to address industry demands, boost enrollment, and potentially enhance private revenue. Could you share experiences and insights regarding your involvement with collaborative initiatives and how you contributed to their success?
The partnership model is the model that is tried and true, has been tried and true throughout my career. You can't do this work alone. You have to have partners at the table. So fostering a collaborative spirit at every level of the institution is, it will make it worthwhile. It certainly has been my experience that through partnerships with K-12 institutions, you got to reach back younger and younger in order to engage these students and prepare them for establishing a college-going tradition. Somewhere along the way, students of color have not embraced the notion, have really latched on to the thought that entrepreneurship is better than higher education. I've seen it time and time again. These are the conversations these students are having. They want to get rich quick, and they want to play sports and become professional athletes, and they want to own businesses, but they don't want to put in the work, and they don't want to get the education, many of them. And so my message has been sort of like a movement, going into living rooms, having conversations, and building partnerships with ISDs, community colleges, creating articulation agreements that will attract students younger and younger. So we are recruiting them at grade 8 and preparing them to have a college-going mindset when they enter high school. And I think that's something that's replicable and scalable, and you go directly from education to employment. It's a pathway. We have to create these pathways and engage students younger and younger and bring their parents along with them. And we also have, in this generation of students, grandparents and great-grandparents raising children. They are tired. They've done this rodeo. So we have to help to encourage them and reemphasize the importance of the great equalizer that is education.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Williams, I'm sure you're familiar with the widespread budget challenges in higher education. And it's imperative for the next president to possess a comprehensive understanding and adeptness in managing budgets, prioritizing expenses, and exploring the new revenue streams. Can you share insights into your experience in navigating and addressing these financial aspects?
Yes, sir. I, in my history of fundraising, I've raised over $170 million to support institutions of higher education. Tomorrow, when I make it back to Dallas, tomorrow morning, I will announce the largest gift in the history of UNT Dallas for $10 million to support, we'll just call it because it's embargoed until tomorrow, to support public safety initiatives. And Grambling State University has a criminal justice program, so it's kind of aligns well with that notion. There are problems to be solved. That's what I look for, problems to be solved. And in southern Dallas, everything is insecure. Food insecure, it's a housing desert. There's opportunity all around. And so that creates an open door for me to raise private philanthropy. And I think that's the key, is bringing private philanthropy and getting those really large, significant gifts. There's no reason why Mackenzie Scott should not have given to Grambling State University. No reason why. There was no rhyme or reason why she gave to Prairie View. But sometimes it's just having your face out there. And the face is the website. And so reimagining the website, putting billboards up and down I-20 and 45 into Houston and in areas where there have been success will create more opportunities for philanthropy outside of the state and beyond.
Dr. Williams?
Yes,
Nice to have you.
Thank you.
I have one question for you. How do you perceive the challenge of balancing academics and athletic priority within a university setting? And what are your thoughts on effective managing this balance?
When I visited with the cabinet earlier, what I said was student athletes must first be students. They are students first, and with a winning team, an athletics program like Grambling has had in its history, and up until now, there just have to be toolkits in place to ensure that students appreciate that they are coming here to get a degree. I use my fiance as the example with his knee injury. After he got out of surgery from his knee injury and was having a pity party, his mama said, "You better be in class on Monday." And so I think that really encouraging these students and doing everything we can to ensure that they have a college degree within 6 years, that's that's definitely something that needs to be at play, because there is life after athletics. And it doesn't always turn out the way that you hope. Everyone can't be a professional athlete. And there are so many opportunities for athletic scholars to be in places and spaces because of their knowledge of athletics where they can thrive in the workplace. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Williams.
Good afternoon.
There is no denying that there is a growing external focus on the job of today's campus president or campus leader. What would you do to connect the community, businesses, the legislators, and others to win additional support for Grambling?
I call that the compelling why. Relationships, relationships, relationships. Every investment comes from a relationship. And so building those relationships with major corporations, ones that I already have in place, ones that have served me well throughout my career, bringing those relationships to Grambling, I think would serve the institution well. And I think looking at the high growth, high demand occupations and ensuring that those are seamlessly aligned to the academic majors and minors, and telling the story and telling it well is what is going to bring more resources, both philanthropic and additional support. And I can tell you one of the areas two areas that are not traditional for university advancement report up to me. I have 9 areas that report up to me at UNT Dallas. Sponsor projects and research is one, so I write grants myself. And the other is what is our flagship retention program called Trailblazer Elite, which was funded by the Texas State Legislature in a climate where no new money was being given. But this program it allows us to go to the students and find them and invest in them resources to help them avoid stopping or dropping out. It's retention on steroids is what we call it. And so I have an amazing leader that runs that program. I recruited her from the independent school district, and she realizes students were dropping out of school in high school. So she knew how to reach those students and help them make the choice, not use education as the opt-out when you have to go get new brakes or new tires. That's a reality. Life happens to a lot of these students, and so they fall off course. But that's an example of how we used student issues to be able to have student success. And that really resonated well with the legislature.
All right. What's the name of that program?
Trailblazer Elite.
Trailblazer Elite. Okay, and my second question is, in the higher education arena, you've been there, it's been your career. Can you name a mentor and describe why you look up to them in that higher education space, especially as you continue to advance in this role?
I have many people to whom I look up, but the person who was the greatest influence in my career has been my current boss, President Bob Mong, and I don't think that I would have been able to be as successful as I have without his understanding of innovation and giving me the flexibility to lead. You can't lead unless you follow. And so there isn't a phone I won't answer. There isn't a trash I won't take out. Nothing is beneath me, and that has served me well. So I learned that from Dr. Willie Trotty at Prairie View A&M University, and he's the person who gave me my first leadership job in advancement, and that helped us to raise the $30 million in the first ever capital campaign that Prairie View has had to date in its since 1876. And I am just grateful to Dr. Trotty and others who I could go on and on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Williams, it is nice to meet you. Like Mayor Bradley, I was unable to make the session this morning because we're here with some of the other candidates, so I look forward to meeting you after this. I'm the National Alumni President speaking for the voice of the alumni. My question to you again is, how would you engage alumni strategically? But I want to say a little bit more in that we know that the state funds, for example, or the allocation of them are changing, right? You used to get more 70%, 30%, and it's kind of reversed at this particular point. And oftentimes the alumni are contact for, can you send a check? And there are other things that we can use our alumni for. Unlike the other candidates, I found lots of references in your bio that's published that shows you have engaged them at your various, the various stops you've had along the way. So I'd like you to elaborate specifically for Grambling, how would you strategically engage the alumni?
I shared with the students during my time with them that the phone banks, that's number one. The students calling alumni to share what's happening on the campus. That is a game changer. And T-Mobile and these phone companies, AT&T, name one, will donate the phones for you to do that work. But just, you have 45,000 alumni, 45,000 plus alumni. That is like the most amazing opportunity you have, because even as an alum, when you get mad and walk away, you still walked away with that piece of paper.
Yeah, you did.
And what it means at Grambling is something completely different than what it means at Prairie View. I've never seen anything like it. The first thing I have heard from every alumni in which I have met is everybody is somebody. I said, they drank the Kool-Aid, really. And it warms my heart, because when we say Prairie View produces productive people, that it's a difference with what you say, because that can resonate with anyone, that everybody is somebody, rather than what is a productive person. So there's no question. And I'm a productive person, but that looks different than the next thing. So I think the fact that being a student at Grambling resonated to the degree with your alumni that it has is an amazing opportunity. Not to ask them for money right away. That's the problem. You can't go in building a relationship or reigniting a relationship by asking for a check. It's, the largest gift by an alumnus at Prairie View was a school teacher, Whitlow Radcliffe Green, that I got $2.5 million as a bequest from Mr. Green, whom I had visited with over the years. And he left pennies on a dollar to his family, to his church, and at the end it said, and everything else I hereby bequeath to Prairie View A&M University. I took that gift. It was matched by the state of Texas Office of Civil Rights, dollar for dollar, because they were giving Prairie View and Texas Southern money, matching money for endowed scholarships and endowed chairs. So I created endowed scholarships in every area that was important to Mr. Green and his parents, and that turned into $5 million. Then I went out to a private donor and got them to match that $5 million dollar for dollar. So that's how it's done. And if we're not taking advantage of that, we have an amazingly missed opportunity.
Thank you for that. And here's the second question I have for you. Can you discuss the president's involvement in fundraising efforts and share how your past experience prepare you to contribute this vital aspect to Grambling?
The chief fundraiser at a university is the president. That is the person who closes the gifts. If you show up with the president, you shouldn't be walking away with $10,000. The president's time is valuable. That doesn't mean that there aren't touch points with intimate gatherings and that kind of thing. But a one-on-one closed gift that requires eight-figure, seven-figure gift. That requires the involvement and engagement of the president. And those are. There should be easily obtainable top 100 prospects that are, I'm telling you, your alumni and friends, people who have been giving to your institution over time, but have never been asked or asked appropriately. In the African American community, it is referenced often as hidden wealth. My mama, who went to Dillard University, could be given Dillard University a significant contribution with a matching gift from ExxonMobil, which is 3-to-1. When I tell my mama, when I started talking to her about philanthropy, she said, "Girl, you must be crazy. You want me to give this amount of money?" I don't care how many different ways I told her, but it wasn't until she saw the power of that giving through events that we held at Prairie View, where Opal Johnson Smith, for whom the auditorium is named at Prairie View in the Memorial Student Center, said, "You got to give till it hurts." She chaired that capital campaign committee for me. And the people who also served on that committee, there are all of the namings that have been done on that campus in the last 20 years are names that I bestowed. The College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Engineering, the School of Nursing has a name in the pipeline. All of those are named because there were 7- and 8-figure gifts that were not just outright cash, but also planned gifts that were planned in their estates.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it's a big job, isn't it, being a president?
Yes, ma'am.
So, but we know that in order to take care of people, you have to take care of yourself. And in this atmosphere where mental health and, people actually realizing that they've got to step aside, unwind, unconnect, and really just take care of themselves. What do you do to relax or to unwind?
I'm sure it's hard to envision, but I'm an RVer. I love RVing. I like just getting in the RV and driving about town to you know, within a 50-mile radius, 75, 100-mile radius, and having dinner. And I don't necessarily want to camp on it. I'm more of a glamper, but I love it with my heart and soul. I can climb up on that thing and read a book and just watch nature. And so I love that more than anything, and traveling. And but being grand lady, that's my favorite thing to do, and that's the best medicine.
Right. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the committee? All right, Dr. Calais, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, sir. President Gallo, we have a few. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. Thank you for joining us today. So good to meet you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Absolutely. So our first question comes from Lonnie Smith. He's an alumnus. Having served almost 7.5 years as Grambling president, Rick Gallo is the 4th longest serving president in Grambling's history. How long do you plan to serve if successful in your bid for president?
Until I am invited to leave.
Thank you for that. Mr. Smith also has another question. Financial stability is essential to any institution. What do you see as the role of a fully functional endowment in addressing this challenge? Can you provide any specific goals and timing?
You know, endowments are shrinking. They're not investments in endowments the way that there used to be. But what I can tell you is I learned a lot during my time at UNT Dallas about historic tax credits. And we utilized those historic tax credits when we built the College of Law. We actually renovated through a partnership with the city of Dallas, Old City Hall, and invested between the city and the university system and the university $100 million in our new College of Law, which is the location where Lee Harvey Oswald was jailed. So we also have, like you have this beautiful Eddie Robinson Museum on the campus, we were able to build a museum in the basement of that building, and it's better than the JFK museum that is steps away. So it's new and interactive and all of that. But I say that to say historic tax credits were a part of that, and instead of taking that money and spending it down a black hole, we reinvested it in the institutional endowment so that we could build for the future.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question is from Ezra Burton. We have a shortage of professors and a multi-million-dollar deficit in athletics. What can you do to improve in these areas?
Philanthropy, I just, again, go back to the work that you've done to engage President Gallo, Chancellor Gallo now, to engage Magic Johnson, Sodexo, that's leading edge, right? So how do you identify more opportunities like that? They are right in your Rolodex. And I think you have to sit down and strategically meet with and develop a fundraising plan. It costs money to make money. It's not going to be free, and it's not going to be easy, but it is necessary. And it has to be done very, very quickly. There can't be a lot of time to plan. You do have to invest in a planning study that will tell you the feasibility of what you can raise, but people can do that now in 90 days if they're procured to do it. They can help come in, consultants can help come in and lay the framework for what could be a pace-setter giving campaign. There is no reason why if Prairie View could come out of the gate 25 years ago with a $30 million campaign, there's no reason why Grambling couldn't do the same very easily.
Thank you. One more question. This final question comes from Obadiah Simmons. How do you envision maintaining an open line of communication with state legislators and congressional offices, irrespective of political affiliation?
I work across the aisle. I'm not white or black, green or purple when it comes to politics. I can have a conversation with anyone. I enjoy building relationships, and I have, even as part of my references, two legislators, the founding two legislators in Texas of our university. And so what President Mong and I have done since I've been at UNT Dallas over the last 8 years is have quarterly meetings with our legislators, and we show up, have a conversation for an hour, and tell them what's going on the campus. There are no secrets. There's just full transparency.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Williams. That concludes this portion of the interview. President Gallo.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Calais. At this time, I would ask that the committee meet in executive session pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 4217 to discuss the personnel matters in association with this presidential search. While in executive session, the committee may meet with its staff, legal counsel, or other persons it deems necessary. No motions nor other action may be taken while in executive session. May I have a motion and a second to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Ms. Donahoe, seconded by Ms. Willis. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Barry Busada?
Yes.
Dr. Jimmy Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Steve Davison?
Yes.
Ms. Lola Donahoe?
Yes.
Miss Elizabeth Pierre? Mr. Al Perkins?
Yes.
Dr. Gary Poe?
Yes.
Mr. Virgil Robinson?
Yes.
Ms. Bailey Willis?
Yes.
Thank you. It is unanimous.
We will now retire to room 168.